Free life चल रहा है लाइफ पर लाइफ जब मैं अब लाइव हो गया
चंडी वाला जो नहीं
सब बोल रहे मुझे नहीं ज्वाइन कर पा रहे हैं
हाँ
ज्वाइन कर लिया
अब ज्वाइन कर
It is increasing.
वंदना नेक्स्ट टाइम मैनेजमेंट शुड बी देयर एक कंफ्यूजन साउंड बंद है साउंड
बिल्कुल फर्स्ट
आप इधर ही रहिए अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम होगा have to take your help. बैठिए बैठिए आप लोग सब बैठिए आराम से and happy Women's Day to everyone.
ये सीट खाली नहीं होना चाहिए
यहाँ से बैठना शुरू कर दो
ये आपकी सीट से पहले सारा भरा होना चाहिए ये लेटर
या तो टाइम लैग है थोड़ा नासिर इसमें टाइम लैग है थोड़ा है ना ठीक है ना अंकित
ये
तो हमें ऐसा दिखता है बाकी तो लोग
कैमरा पर थोड़ा सा लैपटॉप ऑन द लेफ्ट थोड़ा सा
ठीक है सुमन now this is live na people can see this na like we have started कौन सा जा रहा है
दो आपको जब आपका स्टार्ट होगा आपको
काला वो आ रहा है
काम का है तो विवेदित करना
हेलो
सही गंदी से
अच्छा अच्छा
उन लोगों को तो दिख रहा होगा कि मुझे सबसे बात करेंगे
Sir, your audio and video is okay now? Okay, sir. Okay. उसको ऑफ कर दिया नहीं, उसको बंद कर दिया ना? Now it should be okay. ये बंद है ना सारे?
स्पीकर भी इसी का कर देता हूँ।
इसी का चालू कर दो स्पीकर।
Start. तो 10 minutes ही है। अच्छा, उनका आ रहा है मेरी फ्रेंड का भी इको। My daughter has joined. फ्रेंड ने ज्वाइन किया बच्ची से इको है। अब नहीं आएगा इको ना?
आवाज जा रहा है।
डॉक्टर वसुधा कहना चाहिए राइट्स ओनली टू डू नहीं। उनको मैं मेल का स्क्रीनशॉट भेजूं क्या अपनी? I hope I am audible to all. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think we will start the event. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome and heartfelt thanks to everyone for joining us to celebrate International Women's Day. Every year on 8th of March, International Women's Day is celebrated across the globe. Everyone to stand out for women's rights and gender equality. Before that, just a quick introduction. I'm Dr. Vanna Kalia. I'm Scientist E at DSIR and is privileged to be associated with Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women of DSIR, a program which is focused on women as specific beneficiary. The event today is a small initiative under this program to honor women accomplishments and increase awareness for women equality and to strive for greater momentum in women-focused initiatives. It's overwhelming to have some experts today, whom I'm going to introduce shortly over the event. With that, I open the session by inviting Dr. Sujata Chaklanobis, Scientist G at DSIR. Dr. Sujata is leading 3 programs of DSIR, common research and technology development hubs, access to knowledge, and PACE under Industrial Research and Development Scheme. These programs are focused towards indigenous technology development, technology support to MSMEs, startups, and entrepreneurs. Under her leadership, Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women started a new initiative and a new component, that is Skill Satellite Center. This component of the program aims to reach the grassroots women in the interiors of the company at their own convenience. Today, she will be taking us through the vision of Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women of DSIR towards women empowerment through SNT interventions. Welcome, Dr. Sujata. Over to you.
Thank you, Vandana. Good morning to all. On the occasion of International Women's Day, it is my privilege and honor to welcome the chief guest of today's event, Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, Secretary DSIR and DG CSIR, and 4 illustrious women who have excelled in their respective fields. We are honored to have with us Professor Vasudha Kamath, former Vice Chancellor, SNDT Women University, Padma Shri Srimati Santosh Yadav, a woman mountaineer of international repute, Dr. Gagandeep Kang, an Indian microbiologist and virologist, and the first Indian woman scientist to be elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society, and a young woman entrepreneur, Ms. Anuradha Acharya, co-founder and CEO of Map My Genome. Honored and delighted to have with us all the participants attending the webinar. Thank you to each and everyone for being here with us today. We are celebrating today the International Women's Day under the Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women of the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, Ministry of Science and Technology. The International Women's Day is celebrated to commemorate the cultural, political, and socio-economic achievements of women. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, recognizing the contribution of women and girls around the world to build a more sustainable future for all. On this day, I am reminded of a beautiful poem from Gitanjali by Rabindranath Tagore. The poem goes like this: where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert and sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. This poem from Gitanjali, for which Tagore won the Nobel Prize, was written when the British ruled our country. We were slaves to a foreign power. Rabindranath Tagore, the great Indian nationalist and visionary, wanted India to awaken to a bright dawn of freedom, freedom from slavery and our own mental chains. I wish that today's women awaken and have a fearless mind and can hold their head high in true sense. The theme for this year's, as we know, is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Education plays a role in empowering women. Women's low literacy rate is already indicative of their limited exposure to a classroom training and skilling. The literacy levels measured in 2019 do not tell us a new story. The literacy gap only seems to widen the existing divide between men and women and their ability to transfer knowledge from formal learning institutions into their business. Studies go on to state that a 10% increase in the average years of educational attainment amongst women can increase the number of female entrepreneurs in India with hired workers by about 18%. Throughout the history of the world economy, economists have held varying views on what factors preeminently drive the growth of an economy. In Global Gender Gap Index of countries for the year 2021, India ranked 140 out of 156 countries in terms of women's economic participation and opportunity. Women's economic empowerment is a prerequisite for sustainable development, pro-poor growth, and is about rights and equitable societies. According to a McKinsey Global Institute study, India could boost its GDP to $2.9 trillion by fully bridging the gender gap in the workplace by 2025 if female workforce participation rate is improved. This would be equivalent to bringing 68 million more women into the non-farm labor force. Interesting to analyze women's historically low participation rates, a phenomena which predates the present time and which has persisted despite the classic precondition for women's increased participation in the labor force, high rates of growth, rising level of female education, and lower rate of fertility. India's economic growth story has eluded a large section of micro, small, and medium enterprises, in fact, the smallest of the enterprises led by women. This is evident in the fact that despite the growing number of MSMEs in India, as of 2018-19, only 1 in every 5 enterprises was owned by women. Not only is women's representation across sectors low, the growth of existing enterprises also seems to have stagnated over time. A recent study conducted by MasterCard ranked India 49th among 57 countries in MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurs. This ranking speaks volumes of the odds stacked against women in India's entrepreneurship ecosystem. Predominantly, the entrepreneurial ventures of women is restricted to traditional sectors, which are characterized as labor-intensive, with low technological advancements and often using skill sets passed down from generations, with little room for growth and penetration of disruptive methods of production. This is evident from the fact that only 10 sectors of industries account for just over 90% of all female-owned firms in urban India. These are apparel, retail, tobacco, textile, personal services, education, miscellaneous manufacturing, restaurants, food, and health. Of these, apparel, retail, tobacco, textile, and domestic services are the top 5 industries accounting for 75%. Cultural and social dynamics play a key role in forming institutional mindsets that are major constraints to the development of entrepreneurship among women in India. For decades, women's ability to travel has been a result of mobility decisions made by the male members of the household. Mobility constraints and societal expectations, coupled with lack of support from male members of the household, deter women from utilizing their full capabilities to run as well as scale businesses. Women's mobility constraints are far more deep-rooted and extend beyond the boundaries of patriarchal home structures. Addressing women's ability to freely move requires us to address the issue of safety, which is a key detriment of women's ability to access work opportunities. A lack of emphasis on gender-responsive public infrastructure and absolutely inadequate safety standards prevent women from targeting opportunities the same way the men would. The National Policy on Skill Development and Entrepreneurship 2015 mentions the need for gender mainstreaming of training and envisions skill development as a vehicle for women's empowerment. In order to bridge the gap, the policy identifies the need for special delivery mechanisms such as mobile training units, flexible afternoon batches, along with local needs-based training. In India, opportunities for women who are able and willing to work have been restricted due to inflexible work schedules and wage disparity. For those seeking entrepreneurial activity, this has resulted in survivalist ventures mainly aimed at subsistence and sustainable income. In order to address this, initiatives have been taken at various quarters to create training modules for women entrepreneurs. While this is a step in the right direction, the trainings are not always gender responsive and in some cases further perpetuate existing gender stereotypes. Various training programs that focus on upskilling and training entrepreneurs or individuals assign activities like plumbing, electricity, and construction to male applicants. For women, on the other hand, activities are often centered on beauty and wellness, handicrafts, and other activities related to these soft areas. This signaling in policy design creates segregation in the workforce on the basis of their sex and not on their interests and capabilities. Moreover, categorically, the training provided for men has a higher potential for earning as compared to that for women. In addition to fewer networking opportunities and limited understanding of the market landscape, women have a significantly lower rate of awareness of government and banking policies that would help them grow their businesses. A recent report published by the International Financial Federation highlights that only 17% of women entrepreneurs in India were even aware of financial schemes launched by the government. The response of financial institutions to MSME segment has been found to be unfavorable to women-led businesses. Banks generally consider women-owned enterprises as a high-risk subsegment, as these enterprises operate mostly in the informal sector and are usually micro in scale. Moreover, bankers are apprehensive of lending to MSMEs with limited documentation despite prescribed gender-friendly policies and programs. Compared to male-owned MSMEs, lending to women-owned ones faces the challenges of high cost of servicing, given the relatively small ticket sizes of the loan capitalization of entities. As a result, the cost of acquisition of a woman-owned MSME client and the cost of credit processing and delivery is high. Women borrowers also grapple with high turnaround time and lack of clarity on the status of their application. Further absence of collateral causes banks to avoid the subsegment. Parental immovable property or business goes to the male child by succession. Although various succession acts and their amendments have worked towards women becoming co-partners to ancestral property, not much has changed in practice. As a result, women face difficulty in obtaining finance, managing the working capital and credit, that is property to pledge to formal finance officials in order to obtain loans for their businesses. An International Finance Corporation study reported that 31% of the women surveyed cited their lack of capacity to meet the collateral requirements as a factor for loan rejection by banks. In addition, a woman entrepreneur often must name her husband, father, or brother as a co-signer before the loan is disbursed, by default involving them in their business. Given this constraint, access to collateral remains a key issue, especially for women entrepreneurs, given social and legal restrictions around inheritance and land ownership rights. Even if a woman legally owns an asset, male members of the family will often hold the title deed, making it a challenge for women to pledge the asset at their discretion for a loan without having to jump multiple hurdles set up by her family. Science and technology are intimately connected with development because they have historical record of bringing advances that have led to healthier, longer, wealthier, and more productive lives. Science and technology are key ingredients of the solutions to most serious poverty alleviation and economic development challenges that we currently face and are likely to face in the future. The many ways in which science and technology impact poverty alleviation across various sectors and economic growth merit attention. Role of science and technology in poverty alleviation have been central in the debate in the fight against poverty and in stimulating economic growth. A program of DSIR called Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women, popularly known as TDUPW, is focused in this area. DSIR supports projects which responds to societal needs with S&T intervention under the Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women scheme. Innovation today is widely recognized as a major currency of competitiveness and economic growth. Its significant role in creating jobs, generating incomes, and improving life standards is now well understood. However, instead of viewing innovation competitiveness and as a strategy to support high value added employment, it should be also conceived as a means of promoting inclusive growth. Inclusive growth embraces the have-nots and brings them into the mainstream of the economic system. For achieving truly inclusiveness, we need to make some paradigm shifts. For instance, getting more performance by using less resources for more benefit, popularly known as MLM, which is a well-known strategy and is being tried to be practiced while implementing TDUPW projects. A very good example of MLM is a project supported under TDUPW program. The objectives of the projects were developing and standardizing new innovative traditional value-added products using moringa leaves by applying new technologies, encouraging the cultivation of moringa, assessing the consumer's acceptability, economic viability, storage stability of the fresh dehydrated leaves, and the develop value-added products, to train rural women on processing of moringa leaves and development of value-added products as an income-generating activity, and to explore the stakeholder partnership with bank processing industries and leading industries for market outlets for continuous sustainability. Project was less than rupees 20 lakhs. During the project period, 485 women were trained. 58 women entrepreneurs have been successful in setting up their businesses after getting trained under the project. A few entrepreneurs trained under the project are exporting the products to Malaysia, Singapore, and Dubai through export agencies and also selling in local markets. Other entrepreneurs are selling the products in departmental stores. All the entrepreneurs have got the FSSAI license for marketing their products. The project has helped to identify a way for sustainable usage of crops and has created awareness of health benefits and motivated the women groups to initiate the processing of value-added products as an income-generating activity. Improved market opportunities and alternative use of moringa leaves for developing therapeutic and nutraceutical products for food and pharmaceutical industry. In addition to supporting projects aimed at technological interventions in women-centric activities and operations, the department also supports setting up of skill satellite centers under the scheme. The main aim of DSIR Skill Satellite Centers is to enhance the quality of life of women by imparting knowledge and skills. DSIR encourages setting up of skill satellite centers in close vicinity of rural and tribal or other needy groups of women, which would be different from the usual vocational training centers for women established by various other organizations. In addition to the skills training, all the women enrolled with the satellite centers will also be trained on financial literacy and enterprise development. This will ensure that after completion of the training, they are not only financially independent, but can also face social challenges more effectively. The program has tried to address the difficulties faced by women in setting up their own enterprises. Few of them I discussed, like restricted mobility, safety issues, convenient learning time, etc. The program is expected to help the local women uplift their socioeconomic status significantly. The program is committed to reduce the drudgery of women and support them in achieving financial independence. So far, the program has reached 17 states of the nation. However, our dream is to reach out the farthest women of this country, all the states and union territories of India. I believe strong women are not simply born. We are forged through the challenges of life. With each challenge, we grow mentally and emotionally. We move forward with our head held high and a strength that cannot be denied. All the four illustrious women speakers today are examples of the same, and I am sure their talks will be very interesting and motivating for all of us. I would finish by quoting Eleanor Roosevelt, former American First Lady, a United Nations diplomat and humanitarian, the first chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights, and who played an instrumental role in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I quote, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water," I unquote. I wish you all a very happy Women's Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata, for such an interesting talk, sharing DSIR vision and the efforts of the department in changing the lives of women by enhancing her competitiveness and economic freedom through technology adoption. And now, I feel privileged to invite Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, Secretary DSIR and Director General, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, CSIR, under the strong and enabled leadership of Dr. Mande, worked in unison to address the challenges thrown, and with its five-pronged strategy, rose to the nation's call by developing various technological solutions, surveillance, and supply chain logistics. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Shekhar C. Mande. Sir, please.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Sujata. Professor Kamath, Professor Gangdeep Kang, Dr. Anu Acharya, Ms. Santosh Yadav, Sujata, all the friends who have gathered here. At the outset, greetings of the International Women's Day to all of you. I am deliberately avoiding saying greetings of International Women's Day to my female colleagues. I am saying it to all of you because all of us are equal participants in the celebration of this particular day. I'm so pleased that DSIR has organized this program today, especially under the aegis of the very successful technology development and utilization program for women, which Sujata has run very successfully for a very long time. And indeed, this particular program has supported a large number of women in the past for entrepreneurship, skill development, and so on and so forth, as she mentioned just a while ago. DSIR, as many of you would be aware, our distinguished speakers may not be probably aware, is one of the 3 departments of Ministry of Science and Technology. And principally, it looks after academia industry interactions, also empowering different kinds of people in entrepreneurship and so on and so forth. It has had several successful programs, and TDUPW, as Sujata mentioned, is one of them. DSIR especially actually holds this kind of programs very close to its heart, because we are all aware that if in any particular field of activity, we need to strongly promote gender equality is science and technology. As Sujata very correctly pointed out, that science and technology is the primary driver of growth of all societies. And if we were actually going to become a leading innovation nation in future, we must promote gender equality at all different levels. I cannot but help recall our cultural heritage that what we have had over several centuries. And according to our cultural heritage, of course, we hold women at the highest esteem. In fact, we worship many of the goddesses for all the difficulties that what we face. And in fact, we are also one of the first countries to have had a woman leader as the leader of the nation. Many other leading economies cannot actually boast of the kind of achievement that we have been able to have through our women, and the kind of women that we worship through our history. But having said that, there's a large ground yet to be covered, and especially some of the reports that Sujata mentioned, they want to show that we have a long way to go to achieve gender neutrality in our gender equality in all our endeavors. And needless to say that science and technology is one such endeavor that we would like to do it. And it's there that Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, our department, is taking very proactive steps in doing so. I do hope that organization of programs such as like this, and having such 4 very distinguished people on the panel today, would increase awareness among the scientific fraternity about what women can really achieve if they are really empowered. And we are very proud that all the 4 panel members have agreed to our invitation today and have agreed to talk to us. It's indeed very inspiring that they would be here on this platform today and try to promote this particular thing about gender equality amongst all the scientific fraternity. So once again, greetings to all of you on the International Women's Day, and wishing TDUPW and my DSR colleagues a very successful event ahead today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable support and these inspiring words. You have been an inspiration and very kind to us, and have guided us in this program a lot. So with this, we'll move further and we'll say that women in India play a crucial role in various domains of life, from being major workforce in agriculture to housemakers, professional services, small-scale businesses, NGOs, and now entrepreneurs. While talking of women in India, it's important to highlight that women of Northeast region have played important role and immensely contributed to strengthen the socio-economic fabric of the region. Today, on this occasion of International Women's Day, we propose to release a desk study report to celebrate the socio-economic, political and cultural achievements of women of Manipur. May I now request our Secretary Sir Dr. Shekhar C. Mande and Director ICR Central Institute of Poor Harvest Engineering and Technology, Dr. Nachiket and Dr. Sujata, to kindly release the report on social and economic contributions of women in Manipur. Sir, please. Thank you.
मैंने इसको टाइप करना है वो वाला टाइप कर रहा हूँ
This. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. This report has been prepared under one of the Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women project with the joint effort of Dr. Vidya Lakshmi Devi, who is a scientist at ICR CIFET, and a team of COPI, Dr. Bam Bam, Dr. Surya, Dr. Jai Kumar, and DSIR team, Dr. Sujata, and myself, Dr. Vanna. The report aims to realize the priorities and potential of women of Manipur and identify the scope of science and technological interventions in fulfilling the dreams of women of the region towards economic and social empowerment. We will later upload this report on our website, that is www.dsir.gov.in, and I would request all the participants to visit our website and download the report to have the glimpse of the efforts of the team. With this, we'll be running a brief video of two successful projects implemented under Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women, enabling a better quality of life for women of few districts of Odisha and Tirupati by equipping them with the skills which help them in achieving enhanced financial independence. So we'll be just starting the video. Sorry for this delay. It's going to be there on your screen soon.
Yeah.
नहीं हुई है किधर? हाँ यहाँ तो चले हो रही है। हाँ डेस्कटॉप का नाम है
SIR promotes indigenous technology development, utilization and transfer for societal development and use. In its journey, DSIR has promoted and supported industrial research, entrepreneurship and has created an infrastructure of R&D labs across India. Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women TDUPW is an exceptional program focused upon development and deployment of location-specific appropriate technologies, enabling and improving livelihoods of women in different cross-sections of society.
Department of Scientific and Industrial Research under the program Technology Development and Utilization Program for Women sanctioned a project, Empowerment of Women through Silk and Cocoon-based handicrafts, to the Department of Biosciences and Sericulture and Department of Women Studies, Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh. The main objective of this project is to impart hands-on training programs to the women in preparation of handicrafts with cocoons and silk waste to elevate their skills and to promote them to become entrepreneurs to improve their economic standards.
Handicrafts can be made out of waste cocoons and silk, such as greeting cards, flower bouquets, garlands, wall hangings, toys, etc. Cocoon and silk-based handicrafts are not only answer to one's natural instinct to do something unique, but also to generate additional employment and income. Preparation of handicrafts is a simple handiwork, and as one gets some experience, it turns out to be a profitable job for rural as well as urban people, especially for households.
During this 15-day training program, expert trainers imparted skill on preparation of beautiful handicrafts like garlands, flower bouquets, flower vases, frames, jewelry, and many more, and also motivated them to become an entrepreneur. Besides this, we also arranged exposure visits to Sericraft centers, where they acquired a variety of creative ideas and marketing strategies too. And many beneficiaries turned as entrepreneurs and leading comfortable, confident, and dignified life.
Some of the trainees have procured necessary material and started preparation of few items initially for their personal use and marketing to their neighbors. Later on, receiving orders from various places, prepared in a considerable quantity and marketed in exhibitions, local shops, etc. As a part of the training, trainees were enlightened on entrepreneurship development, various ways of marketing, including digital marketing. Trainees are motivated to take up the Sericraft as an enterprise. Various consumer sale points were established at exhibitions conducted at different places on various occasions, and trainees were guided to exhibit.
With the financial assistance of DSIR, we have organized 7 hands-on training programs and trained 191 women.
With the financial assistance of Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi, ICR-SIVA implemented a project on adding value to fish, a potential livelihood option for rural women of Odisha, with the objective of building entrepreneurship among rural women through value addition of fish. There are different kinds of fish products. It ranges from hygienically dressed and packed fish, fermented fish products, cured fish products, mince-based fish products, to byproducts which can be produced from fish and fish waste.
12 master trainers belonging to two SHG groups, Ma Sarala and Viswa Bharati Ma of Kadamana village, Astarang Puri, came forward to take up value-added fish product preparation as an enterprise option to improve their employment and income. FSSAI license which for selling food products was obtained.
Our institute sprang into action, and it made a breakthrough by establishing a market linkage for the value-added fish products under the brand name Fish Likes with the PPP mode fish retail chain in the city, Falcon Chilka Fresh. This market linkage created by our institute gave a real impetus to the business, and there was no looking back after that. That time it started with 2 retail outlets. Within a matter of few months, it spread into more than 8 retail outlets, owing to increasing consumer demand.
We are extremely grateful to Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi, for providing financial assistance, and Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalayam for the administrative support in carrying out this project successfully.
Thank you. With this, sorry for the glitch that happened. Sorry for the glitch that happened. There were some technical errors, so we could not run the video. So, however, with this, we move on to our next session, Breaking the Glass Ceiling, Gender Equality and Women Empowerment, where we have with us 4 incredible women speakers of high accomplishments and great success in different fields of life. They will be sharing with us their struggles and bottlenecks that they faced in reaching their current milestones of life, and will enrich us with their thoughts on women empowerment. I feel honored to invite our first guest speaker of this session, Dr. Vasudha Kamath, who is Chairperson, Governing Board at Consortium of Educational Communication, CEC. Dr. Vasudha is also an educational technologist and is passionate about teachers training, especially in the area of ICT integration in higher education, women's education and open distance education. She has been contributing for decades with a lot of passion and commitment towards education. Prior to being chairperson of CC, Professor Kamath has been Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. While serving as Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, she introduced many new thoughts and innovative practices into higher education in the university. She is nominated by the Government of India as a member of Task Force for examining age of motherhood for India. She was also nominated by Ministry of Human Resource Development, now Ministry of Education, Government of India, to the National Education Policy Draft Committee under the chairman of Dr. Kasturi Ranjan in June 2017. The report stands approved by the Cabinet now. May I now invite Dr. Kamath for sharing her thoughts with us on this special occasion. Dr. Kamath? She's there. You'll have to wait for some time. She's just joining in and she'll be sharing some slides. So we'll be waiting for a few minutes more.
Yes.
Dr. Coming to our, we will be, as Dr. Vasudha could not join, we will be inviting our next speaker, Dr. Gagandeep Kang, who is a prominent face and an expert guiding us in our fight against COVID pandemic. We are fortunate to have with us Dr. Gagandeep Kang, a leading virologist, microbiologist, and epidemiologist. She is a professor of microbiology at CMC Vellore. She is also an executive director. She has also been executive director of Translational Health Sciences and Technology Institute, Faridabad. Dr. Kang has made immense contributions in fight against COVID pandemic, being ex officio member of a working group on COVID-19 vaccines at WHO and expert in various national committees. Dr. Kang has recognition including Infosys Award in Life Sciences. She is the first woman from India to have the honor of being elected as Fellow of Royal Society. Today, Dr. Kang would be sharing with us her inspiring journey as a leading clinical scientist of the nation. Over to Dr. Kang. Dr. Kang, may I request you to kindly unmute yourself and switch on your video.
Yes, hi, Vandana.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? So, right, I had actually some slides, but I'd be happy to have a conversation instead and describe as you ask. What?
Ma'am, your audio, I think you're muted, or your audio is
No, we can hear.
Who's on? Can you hear me?
We can hear perfectly well. No issues.
So, Vandana, can you hear me? Okay. Right, so for International Women's Day, I wanted to talk to you about slicing our society in many different ways. If we look at all of ourselves who are gathered here today, everyone, but everyone, has women who are in science associated with them, starting with our secretary, whose wife is an outstanding scientist in her own right, as well as all of you who are working at DSIR, right? But even though we recognize that some of us come from a place of privilege in terms of our education, in terms of what we have been able to achieve with difficulty, but achieve it nonetheless, we have to recognize that we are not representative of the bulk of our country and that there is a lot that we can do. So if I look at myself and my own journey, I come from a place of privilege. My family was middle class. My family has 2 daughters, and maybe this is something DSIR could study. If you have only daughters, do you educate them more than if you have both sons and daughters? I think what we will find is that in the upper middle class, we will have more educated women who are encouraged to engage. But the important thing to remember is that even though we wind up being successful, the path is not easy when society places restrictions on us. So I have worked my whole life. I managed with 8 weeks of maternity leave, which is very much more generous in the government sector now, with 6 months being mandated. But that is formal employment, and the bulk of our country does not have formal employment. So Jata had pointed out the low labor force participation. We have actually gone down from just under 30% to just over 20% of our female workforce being in employment. And then we want to look at women doing science. So I think we shouldn't think about women in science in an isolated fashion. We should think about women, their position in society, and their opportunities for education and for empowerment. If we do not facilitate those opportunities for women, it just makes it very, very difficult for women to succeed in whatever they're doing. So I would like to just draw your attention to one particular study, and this was a modeling exercise that is actually based on empirical data on what happens to women when they work. So if you're a woman and you go out and get a job, there are 4 things that happen. When women and men have the same level of achievement, the achievement of women is recognized and acknowledged much less than the achievement of men. It may be 3%, it may be 5% less recognition, but it happens at every stage. When women work as part of a mixed team, the contributions of men are recognized more than the contributions of women. So again, you have a slight disadvantage there. Then if you look at women who are given projects to do, women will be given fewer challenging projects than men will be. For a variety of reasons, women are not given opportunities to stretch themselves. Some of this is old boys club, some of this is who you know, some of this is because women are in general quieter than men are in mixed groups. But they don't have the opportunity to stretch themselves and then be recognized for that stretch. And the last factor is, if a woman speaks up and is what is called aggressive, right, makes her opinion known, then she is treated much more than a man in a similar situation as being difficult. So she gets downgraded for that. So all your opportunities for advancement are made slightly smaller, and your opportunities or what happens when you fail, those become somewhat larger. When this happens at every stage in your career, it means, and this is modeling studies that have been done, it means that a woman is about 8 times to 17 times less likely to rise to the top than if you have women and men who start at the same place and progress at the same rate. So this is systemic. It is not, we remember all the big things that happen. You remember harassment events, you remember the times when you're told because you're pregnant, you're not going to get a job. But you don't recognize that this pulling down of women happens essentially every day and in many, many ways. So these kinds of difficulties are ones that we should learn to recognize and learn to figure out how to counter. What does this mean? This means that actually looking at projects that measure what is being done in order to support women needs to be implemented at every level. Now, DSIR has discussed various programs that resemble the Athena Swan Awards, but I think we need to do exactly what Dr. Mande said, which is when we consider how our society respects women, it should be respect in all fields, not respect here and pulling somebody down over there. How will this change? This will change if women actually put themselves forward, if organizations create empowering mechanisms for women, and we provide both leadership training and mentoring. In my own career, what has been most useful to me is a circle of friends and well-wishers, mainly women, but not exclusively. There have been several excellent men that have supported not just me, but many other women to progress. If we think about it, we can do it, but I do know that measurement is absolutely critical. It's been shown in a study that looked at reserving positions for women in West Bengal, that when you reserved positions in the panchayat for women, when you did that over 3 cycles, what essentially happened was, even without the reservation, more women came to the fore and wanted to be recognized for their leadership and to participate in that leadership. So monitoring continues to be important. Opportunities continue to be important. I think Indian women have phenomenal capacity, and I see that you already have the 3 completely outstanding other women on the panel from different fields who have joined us here. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I look forward to hearing them speak.
Thanks, Dr. Gagandeep Kang, for motivating us with your talk and sharing with us that how the women of India's, the middle class and the different sections of society face the challenges in the current scenario. Thank you, Dr. Kang, once again. With this, I'll move to our second speaker, and I feel proud and honored to introduce you our second speaker, Padam Shri Mrs. Santosh Yadav-ji, who is an example of courage and passion for achieving heights. And when I meant heights, I mean the heights in real terms. Santosh ji is the first woman in the world to climb Mount Everest twice, and the first woman to successfully climb Mount Everest from the Kangshung phase. She climbed the peak first time in May 1992 when she was just 20 years old, becoming the youngest woman in the world to achieve this feat. Santosh ji has been awarded with National Adventure Award in 1994 and Padam Shri in 2000. She is also Limca record holder for participating in the Indian Women Thar Desert Expedition held in 2007 and 2015. I welcome Santosh ji for your inspiring words.
आज बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण दिन है हम सभी के लिए, और मैं अक्सर ये बात कहती हूँ कि आज मैं केवल महिलाओं को ही नहीं बल्कि मेरे जो पुरुष भाई हैं उनको भी मैं बधाई देती हूँ, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ तो अर्धनारीश्वर का जो एक कॉन्सेप्ट है, मैं उसी कॉन्सेप्ट पे मैं बात करती हूँ, मैं बिलीव भी करती हूँ, और मेरे ख्याल से ये सारी चीजें हमारी होनी चाहिए कि हमारा मेन एंड वुमेन हमारा दोनों का एक साथ मुझे लगता है कि मनाना चाहिए। क्यों? क्योंकि ये पूरी जो दुनिया है, कायनात है, बिना पुरुष के हम स्त्री अधूरी हैं, और एक स्त्री जो है, एक पुरुष भी बिना महिला के अधूरा है। तो मैं समझती हूँ कि ये पूरी सृष्टि की जो रचना है वो दोनों ने मिलके की है, और उसके लिए मैं दोनों को ही मैं बधाई देती हूँ। पूरे जितना भी हमारा महिलाएं हैं और मेरे पुरुष भाई हैं, सबको बधाई आज का जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला दिवस जो मना रहे हैं। और जो अभी मैडम ने, मैं थोड़ा सा सुन पाई डॉक्टर मैडम गगनदीप जी मैडम को, और मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ उनकी कई बातों से जो मैंने सुना। और मेरा ये मानना है, कल भी मेरे से कोई लोग बात कर रहे थे इसी विषय को लेकर के, तो उन्होंने कहा मैम आप कुछ कहिए इस विषय पे। तो मैंने कहा कि देखिए, सर्वप्रथम संस्कृति की पालना ये करना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि हम पहले धर्मों में बटे, फिर मैं पंथ की बात करी, धर्म का मतलब जो है लोग कहते हैं उसको, फिर जातियों में बटे, आज नौबत जेंडर में बटने की आ चुकी है। एक धर्म दूसरे धर्म से डरता है, एक जाति दूसरे जाति से डरती है, एक पुरुष महिला से, महिला भी पुरुष से डर रही है, सब एक भय का माहौल है पूरे समाज में। मेरा ये मानना है, आज एक इतना महत्वपूर्ण दिवस है, इसके उपलक्ष्य में मैं कहना चाहूंगी कि हम सबको, अगर हम संस्कृति की पालना करते हैं तो उससे ना किसी एक धर्म को दूसरे धर्म से डरने की जरूरत है, ना ही एक जाति को दूसरे जाति से डरने की आवश्यकता है, और ना ही एक पुरुष और महिला किसी को भी आपस में एक दूसरे को डरने की आवश्यकता नहीं होती। न केवल, बल्कि हम एक बहुत ही, जब हम संस्कृति की पालना करते हैं तो सर्वप्रथम हम एक चाहे वो सामाजिक पर्यावरण की समस्या है वो हल हो जाती है, चाहे वह पर्यावरण की समस्या है वो भी हल हो जाती है, प्राकृतिक पर्यावरण की समस्या है, तो वो दोनों का दोनों समाधान है इसके अंदर। दूसरा, अर्थव्यवस्था भी हमारी व्यवस्थित हो जाती है, क्योंकि संस्कृति हमें एक आवश्यकता में जीना सिखाती है। और उसी तरीके से हमारी शिक्षा हो, चाहे हमारा स्वास्थ्य हो, सभी हमारा एकदम फर्स्ट क्लास हो जाता है। और इसके साथ में मैं एक और चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगी कि हम सबको विज्ञान पढ़ना चाहिए, और सच की जो खोज है, वो सत्य जो है, ये 2.5 अक्षर का सत्य जो है, इसको जानना बहुत जरूरी है हर इंसान को। और उसके साथ में सत्य को जब जान लिया तो हम प्रेम को जान लेते हैं, ये भी 2.5 अक्षर का ही है। जब हम इन दोनों को जान लेते हैं तो हमें अपने जो शारीरिक व्यवस्था है, मानसिक व्यवस्था, उसको जानना, ये भी 2.5 अक्षर का है, इसको भी हम जान लेते हैं। तो इन तीनों को जब जान लिया तो हमें आनंद की अवस्था में, यानी कि हमने पूरी संस्कृति को जान लिया। तो ये एक मेरा मानना है। और मैं आज के ये जो हमारा जो विषय है, इसके ऊपर जो हमारा इसको सेलिब्रेट किया जा रहा है, तो उसके ऊपर मेरा सभी बहनों से, सभी भाइयों से एक ही अनुरोध है कि किस तरीके से हम एक संस्कृति की पालना करें जो हमें स्वस्थ रखने के लिए, स्वस्थ रखना मानव का सबसे पहला उद्देश्य होना चाहिए। और मानव का उद्देश्य स्वस्थ रहना है, उसकी जो स्वभाव है वो है खोज करना। जब वो स्वस्थ रहता है वो स्वस्थ खोज करता है। आज जितने भी साइंटिस्ट हैं, अगर वो थोड़ा सा एक अध्यात्म की ओर जाएंगे तो आज जो देश में, पूरे विश्व में जो स्थिति हो रही है, युद्ध की स्थिति हो रही है या युद्ध हो रहा है, वह स्थिति नहीं होगी। और एक अनावश्यक जो खोज कर दिया हम लोगों ने, उस खोज को एक मानव के हमेशा एक उसके हित की बात करेगा, उसके हित की बात सोचेगा, चाहे वो व्यापार है। आज मार्केट में व्यापारीकरण भी है, तो उसमें कई ऐसी चीजें हैं जो कि हमारे बच्चों के लिए और हम सब मानव समाज के लिए वो, और पर्यावरण के लिए वो अनुचित है। तो इसीलिए मैं इन्हीं बातों के साथ में, क्योंकि मैंने पर्वतारोहण किया है, मैं जानती हूँ, मैं एक माँ हूँ, और माँ का जो सबसे बड़ा जो रोल है, इनफैक्ट अगर समाज की सचमुच अगर समस्या का हल करना है तो माँ को अपने बच्चे के ऊपर बहुत ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है। और माँ ही उसके इर्द गिर्द मतलब उसकी एक जो वो डोर है वो कभी भी छूटनी नहीं चाहिए। और मैं समझती हूँ कि एक किसान जब खेती करने जाता है, वह 6 महीने की खेती के लिए कितनी तैयारी करता है। वो बहार लगाता है, खेत को सुखाता है फिर, और उसके बाद वो बीज को भी चेक करता है कि बीज में कोई कीड़ा तो नहीं लगा, घुन तो नहीं लगा हुआ है। तो इतनी तैयारी करता है। उसके बाद वह जब बीज को रोपने जाता है तो उस तक तिथि भी देखता है कि शुक्ल पक्ष है या कृष्ण पक्ष है, और पवन भी देखता है कि पवन कौन सी है, परवा है या पछुआ है। तो उसमें ये देखता है पूर्वा अगर है तो या पछुआ है तो क्या ये जो बीज लगा रहे खाली तो नहीं चला जाएगा। इतना वो तैयारी करता है, और हम इंसान की कोई तैयारी नहीं है। हाँ जी, मेरा इशारा जो है गर्भ संस्कार से भी पहले की तैयारी है। ये हमारा शरीर जो 5 तत्वों से बना हुआ है, इसको मैं समझती हूँ कि सभी को जो है इसको शुद्ध रखने की आवश्यकता है, चाहे हमारा, और उसी से हमारे जो बच्चे हैं वह एक अगर माँ चाहे पूरे विश्व में युद्ध ना हो, तो जब गर्भ में बच्चा होता है, गर्भ धारण करती है, तो उस वक्त ऐसे भाव रखेंगी तो बच्चे का जरूर एक मानसिक और शारीरिक बहुत एक पूरे समाज को अच्छा रखने के ही विचार आएंगे उसमें। तो ये एक मेरा निवेदन है सभी से कि इस पे जरूर विचार किया जाए कि हम किस तरीके से समाज को सुरक्षित रख सकते हैं। तो गर्भ संस्कार, माँ जब बच्चा गर्भ में होता है उसकी तैयारी, उसके बाद बच्चा जब गर्भ से बाहर आ जाता है तो और जिम्मेवारी हो जाती है, क्योंकि हम कई तरह के खरपतवार होते हैं, कई तरह की समाज में ऐसी चीजें होती है, हो चुकी हैं, और उससे क्या है बच्चे को बचाना होता है हम लोग को। तो ये एक हमारा बहुत बड़ा कंसर्न है पूरे समाज के लिए। और बाकी का तो खैर एज ए हमारा जो पर्वतारोहण जो मेरा एक विषय है, वहां पे तो मेन एंड वुमेन, वहां पे जो फिट है वही ऊपर जा सकता है। जो जिसकी स्वास्थ्य है वहां पे बिल्कुल भी पार्शियलिटी नहीं चलती है। और वहां पे तो बिल्कुल हम कई बार हमारे मेन कोलीग को देखते थे कि वो बीमार है और वो ऊपर नहीं जा पा रहा है, और कुछ ना कुछ, और ये बीमारी जो है एक भाव की स्थिति है इनफैक्ट। और मेरा आग्रह है कि सभी से कि भाव का अभाव हो गया है। यदि ये भाव सुरक्षित रहेगा तो हम कभी बीमार नहीं पड़ेंगे और सभी लोग स्वस्थ रहेंगे और संस्कृति की पालना करेंगे। और मैं एक पुलिस अधिकारी भी रही हूँ, मैंने रिजाइन किया और मेरे 2 बच्चे हैं, उनकी देखरेख के लिए कई ऐसी चीजें होती है जो कि माँ को एकदम बच्चे को, क्योंकि हम किसी और के भरोसे 9 महीने गर्भ में रखा है बच्चे को और उसके बाद उसको किसी और के भरोसे छोड़ दे, ये एक बच्चे के साथ में बहुत नाइंसाफी है। और बच्चा बहुत इमोशनली बहुत ज्यादा वो वैक्यूम उसमें हो जाता है, वो उतना साउंड नहीं होता इमोशनली, क्योंकि जो एकदम जिसके पास वो बच्चा था गर्भ में, वो अचानक छोड़ के चली जाए तो एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या ये है। इसीलिए मैं हमेशा एक बात कहती आई हूँ, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का ये इस पे ध्यान देना होगा कि किस तरीके से हमारी जो महिलाएं जब बच्चा को जन्म देने के बाद उनको लंबी छुट्टी मिलनी चाहिए, और उनको लंबी छुट्टी के साथ में उनको स्टाइफन एक मिलना चाहिए ताकि वह अपने बच्चे की देखरेख ठीक से कर सके। ये मेरी बातें हैं, और इसी के साथ में अगर मुझसे कुछ पूछना चाहते तो पूछ सकते हैं। सुजाता जी।
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद संतोष जी। आप अगर अपना माउंटेनियरिंग करने के लिए जो आपको असुविधाएं या प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करनी पड़ी और कैसे आपने उसको ओवरकम किया, उसके बारे में अगर आप थोड़ा सा बताएं तो हम लोगों को बहुत अच्छा लगेगा, क्योंकि एक महिला माउंटेनियर, वो भी 2 बार आपने विजय किया है माउंट एवरेस्ट, इज रियली लाइक अ वेरी एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी थिंग टू डू। तो उसमें आप अपना थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस बताइए तो बहुत अच्छा लगेगा प्लीज।
क्योंकि मेरा जन्म जो है बहुत छोटे से गांव से हुआ। वहाँ पे बहुत छोटा गांव है मेरा हरियाणा में, जहाँ पे लड़कियों को बहुत ज्यादा सुरक्षा की दृष्टिकोण से बहुत अच्छी हायर एजुकेशन के लिए बाहर नहीं भेजा जाता था। माउंटेनियरिंग तो खैर बहुत दूर की बात है। मैं अपने गांव से भी पढ़ने के लिए कम से कम 11 किलोमीटर पैदल जाती थी। एवरी डे मुझे 11 किलोमीटर पैदल जाना पड़ता था। उसके बाद वहां से फिर मेरी सफर शुरू होता है, और वो इतना डिफिकल्ट था मेरे लिए कि 4.5 किलोमीटर चढ़ाई चलने के बाद एक छोटी सी चढ़ाई आती थी। मैं उस चढ़ाई पे बैठ जाती थी और बहुत सुस्ताती थी, मुझे काफी थकान भी होती थी उस वक्त, लेकिन क्योंकि पढ़ाई करनी है तो मैं आज जब मैं उस रास्ते को क्रॉस करती तो मुझे वो चढ़ाई याद आती है। तो मैं अक्सर ये सोचती हूँ कि इस चढ़ाई को मैं कैसे पार नहीं कर पाती थी और मैं माउंट एवरेस्ट चढ़ गई। तो इसमें मुझे ये लगता है कि अगर आपके पास एक दृढ़ संकल्प की शक्ति होती है तो वह अपने आपके जो एम होता है उसको पूरा कराती है, और साथ में केवल पूरा ही नहीं कराती, वो क्या करती है कि आपके विवेक को भी जगाती है, क्योंकि इतनी मेहनत करनी पड़ती है। उसी तरीके से जब मैं माउंटेनियरिंग में गई तो वहां पर लोगों ने, क्योंकि मैं तो पहाड़ से नहीं, मैं प्लेन से थी और मैंने कभी बर्फ और पहाड़ देखे नहीं थे, और तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये जो है किस तरीके से ये क्लाइंब करेगी, ये तो बिल्कुल नाजुक सी है और कैसे इसका होगा, ये 2-3 दिन में वापस चली जाएगी। ये सब बातें भी हुई। पर यहाँ मैं कहना चाहूंगी जो भी दर्शक लोग हैं कि भाई वो जरूर कहे, क्योंकि मेरा माउंटेनियर बनना और एक कोई अचीवमेंट करना ऐसा मेरा कोई मिशन नहीं था। मेरा मिशन था केवल एक जिज्ञासा के रूप में मेरा एक हिमालय की ओर राह हुई, और वो हिमालय को मैं देखना चाहती थी कि वो कैसे लगते हैं। मेरे ख्याल से मैं जब इंस्टीट्यूट में पहुंची तो वो मैंने देख लिए थे, और इसलिए मेरा जो अंदर से जो एक डर था वो नहीं था। मैं एकदम बहुत ही शांत स्वभाव की, और वहां से जब मैंने 3 दिन के बाद जब हमें एक 20 किलोमीटर मुझे चलना पड़ा, 20 किलोमीटर मेरी पीठ पे डाल दिया गया, तो जब मैं उसको पार कर गई और मैं सबसे आगे चली गई, जो मेरी और जो हमारे साथी थे, हम 63 गर्ल्स थे पूरा भारत से, और जब वो चली गई, मैं चली गई पहले, तो बाद में मुझे समझ में नहीं आया कि ये कैसे हुआ, क्योंकि पहाड़ में तो एक तरफ नदी होती है और एक तरफ पहाड़ होते हैं और बीच में रास्ता होता है। तो मैंने सोचा ये कहाँ से क्रॉस कर गए होंगे। खैर मैंने वो क्लाइम किया तो सभी लोगों को बड़ा आश्चर्य लगा कि ये कैसे हो पाया। तो मैं यहाँ एक कहना चाहूंगी कि जो और एक और हम बिल्कुल ये स्टोरी को हम जरूर हम हर जगह बताती हुई बात कि ये 11 मई की बात है। उस दिन को मैं भूल नहीं सकती हूँ। 11 मई 1993 की, जब मैं क्लाइम कर चुकी थी 10 मई को और मैं नीचे आ गई थी कैंप 4 में, और वहां रात बिताने के बाद रात को ही मौसम बहुत खराब हो गया। इतना खराब हुआ कि एक ये लगा कि अब शायद हम लोगों का बचना मुश्किल है, लेकिन हमने हिम्मत करके ये कहा कि नहीं, हम जितना जल्दी हो सके नीचे जाएं। तो मेरे जो साथी थे बाकी के, उन्होंने कहा हम नीचे नहीं जाएंगे, मौसम इतना खराब हो रहा है, हवा तेज चल रही है, हमें इस हवा से डर लग रहा है। तो मैंने कहा अगर हम लोग नीचे नहीं जाएंगे तो ये बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा। मैं अपनी पूरी टीम को समझा रही हूँ, मेरी टीम तैयार नहीं थी नीचे जाने के लिए और हमारा वॉकी टॉकी फेल हो चुका था। उसके बाद मैंने क्या किया कि वहां से एक कुछ बर्फ लिया, उनके टेंट के सामने रखा और वहां से फिर मैं नीचे चली ताकि मैं एक टीम को भेजूं इनको रेस्क्यू करने के लिए, क्योंकि मैं ऑलरेडी थक चुकी थी, मैं अकेली कैसे इन सबको लेके आऊंगी। तो हमने 5-6 लोगों को भेजने के लिए प्लान किया और जब मैं नीचे गई 15 मिनट के बाद ही इतना तूफान बढ़ गया कि मुझे उठा उठा के फेंका उस तूफान ने। एक मोमेंट ऐसा आया कि शायद मैं नहीं बच पाऊंगी, पर मैंने उसी वक्त अपने आप को कहा कि नहीं, तुम जिंदा हो संतोष, अभी जब तक तुम जिंदा हो तब तक तुम कोशिश करो जिंदा रहने की। और वो मैंने, जब मेरे हाथ में फ्रोजबाइट होने लगा, मेरे हाथ बिल्कुल अकड़ गए थे, टिश्यूज सब सर्कुलेशन बंद हो गया, तो ये मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो गया था क्योंकि उसको रस्सी पकड़ के मैं नीचे कैसे आऊंगी। खैर जब मैं नीचे आई, कैसे न कैसे करके मैं नीचे पहुंची, कैंप 2 में पहुंची। तो कैंप 2 में पहुंचने के बाद मेरे साथी लोगों ने कहा कि तुम्हारी बहुत हालत खराब है। वहां 2 डॉक्टर पहुंचे हुए थे ब्रिटिश और अमेरिका के, उन्होंने मेरे हाथों को देखा, उन्होंने कहा हाथ कट जाएंगे। लेकिन यहाँ मैं एक बात बताना चाहूंगी, जिसको मैंने भगवान कहा है, विश्वास को ही मैंने अपने ऊपर विश्वास किया और मेरे अंदर की आत्मा ने कहा कि नहीं, मेरे हाथ बच जाएंगे। जबकि एक डॉक्टर जो है उससे ज्यादा एक इंसान अपने अपने शरीर का डॉक्टर खुद होता है, क्योंकि उसको महसूस हो रहा है कि उसके हाथ में क्या हो। मैं जान रही थी कि मेरे हाथ के टिश्यूज बिल्कुल नम हो चुके हैं और ये बिल्कुल बंद अकड़ गए हाथ, और सर्कुलेशन नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी मेरे अंदर का मन ये कह रहा था नहीं, मेरे हाथ बच जाएंगे। उस सकारात्मक सोच ने मुझे निर्णय लेने की स्थिति में, सही निर्णय लेने की स्थिति में पहुंचाया और मैं नीचे गई बेस कैंप में। बेस कैंप जाना बहुत आसान नहीं था मेरे लिए, क्योंकि कम से कम मुझे मोर देन 100 लैडर्स मुझे क्रॉस करने पड़े और हर लैडर का जो साइज था, चौड़ाई उसकी सिर्फ 1 फुट, लंबाई 20 फुट भी थी, 15 फुट भी थी, 30 फुट भी थी। तो ये एक बहुत ही गंभीर स्थिति थी कि कोई मुझे दूसरा मदद भी नहीं कर सकता। खैर, और वो रस्सी पकड़ के ही सब करना था। पर मैंने क्या किया, अपने एल्बो को इस्तेमाल किया, क्योंकि वो कहीं से हिम्मत आ रही थी, कहीं से सही प्रेरणा मुझे मिल रही थी, सही डायरेक्शन मिल रही थी। और मैंने बहुत रिदम के साथ में मैं नीचे गई और ऐसा मेरा रिदम बैठा कि मैं वो लैडर 6 घंटे में मैं पार कर गई। बेस कैंप में गई, हमारी डॉक्टर रीटा पटेल ने कहा ये हाथ नहीं बचेंगे। फिर मैंने उनको कहा कि नहीं, आप नकारात्मक ना सोचे, मेरे हाथ बच जाएंगे और मैं किसी भी तरीके से, आप लाइन ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट चालू कीजिए। उन्होंने कहा हेलीकॉप्टर बुलाना पड़ेगा। ऐसे नहीं, हेलीकॉप्टर मत बुलाइए, क्योंकि मैं हेलीकॉप्टर लैंड नहीं कर पाया तो मैं हेलीकॉप्टर का इंतजार नहीं करूंगी। मुझे अपने पैरों पे भरोसा है, मैं पैदल जाऊंगी। और मैं लगातार 4 दिन के रास्ते को, रात को 2 बजे के करीब लगभग मैं चली थी वहां से, और लगातार 23 घंटा मैं चलती रही। और उस 23 घंटा चलने के बाद मुझे फ्लाइट मिली, पर मुझे 5-6 घंटे के बाद लगभग 8 बजे के करीब, 8-9 बजे करीब जब मैं ट्री लाइन में पहुंची, तो मुझे मेरे हाथों में बहुत जबरदस्त पेन होने लगा, क्योंकि वो ब्लड सर्कुलेशन से क्या हो रहा था, मेरे टिश्यूज रिवाइव हो रहे थे। और यदि मैं हेलीकॉप्टर उठा लेती, हेलीकॉप्टर मुझे उठा लेता, तो मुझे मेरे हाथ नहीं बचने थे। ये जब आप विश्वास करते हो अपने ऊपर, तो विश्वास करने से क्या, हमारी जो सकारात्मक सोच होती है वो सही निर्णय लेने के लिए आपको प्रेरित करती है। तो ये सब चीजें मेरे साथ हुआ और मेरे हाथ आज बचे हैं और डॉक्टरों ने कहा कि ये मिरेकल है, ये कैसे बच गए, जब टिश्यूज जो डेड हो चुके थे वो कैसे बचे। जब उन्होंने वो मुझे जापान में देखा कि जब मैं जापान गई तो वो डॉक्टर्स वहां मिले, तो उन्होंने क्या किया कि फटाफट एक मशीन लगाई जो ऑक्सीमीटर की आज पूरे समाज में मार्केट में है बड़ा, तो वो मेरे कई मशीनें लगाई, वो भी मशीन लगाई, तो उन्होंने पाया कि मेरा ऑक्सीजन सैचुरेशन सबसे ज्यादा है। डॉक्टरों ने जब मैंने मॉनिटरिंग शुरू की तो डॉक्टरों ने फेल कर दिया था मुझे कि इसके लंग्स, मेरा जब मेडिकल हुआ तो कहा इसके लंग्स बहुत छोटे हैं, ये कैसे क्लाइम करेगी, वहां तो सारा ही प्राणवायु का खेल है और इसके तो लंग्स इतने छोटे हैं तो कैसे ये क्लाइम करेगी। खैर मैं एनालाइज कर पा रही हूँ अभी एक बात के लिए, क्योंकि 3 चीजें जो मुझे समझ में आई वो हुआ तो उनको पता नहीं थी, क्योंकि मैं सवेरे जल्दी उठती थी, शुरू से बचपन से मेरी आदत है। मेरे माता पिता का दिया हुआ संस्कार, मेरे माता पिता जो है वो 3:30-4 बजे उठ जाते थे, मैं उनके साथ उठती थी। जब मैं हॉस्टल में गई मैंने और जल्दी उठना शुरू किया और वो था मेरा सवेरे 3 बजे का, क्योंकि मुझे पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती थी, गांव से पढ़ाई की थी तो मेरी बहुत अच्छी पढ़ाई का जो स्तर था वो बहुत अच्छा नहीं था, तो मैंने अपनी पढ़ाई को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए भी मुझे सवेरे जल्दी, क्योंकि मेरी 8 बजे ऑनर्स की क्लासेस शुरू हो जाती थी और क्योंकि मुझे अंग्रेजी नहीं आती थी, मैं हिंदी मीडियम स्कूल से पढ़ी थी, तो उसी वक्त मुझे ये भी मेरा विषय था कि मुझे इस ज्ञान को भी हासिल करना था, तो हमारे न्यूज़पेपर आ जाता था तो उस न्यूज़पेपर को मैं पढ़ती थी और रोजाना ये तय करती थी आज मुझे कितने वर्ड्स याद करने, मुझे कितने वर्ड्स याद करने। तो ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण था कि मैं सवेरे जल्दी उठती थी। आज मुझे पता चलता है कि हमारे लंग्स सबसे ज्यादा एक्टिव होते हैं और जो सुबह जल्दी उठते हैं उनका ऑक्सीजन लेवल बहुत अच्छा होता है। दूसरा, हमारे गांव में लहसुन, प्याज, अदरक का बहुत ज्यादा इस्तेमाल नहीं होता है इनफैक्ट, तो ये भी एक कारण था कि मुझे मेरा गैस नहीं बनता था, क्योंकि जब हमारे गैस बनता है तो उसी से हमारा ऑक्सीजन लेवल भी कम हो जाता है, एसिडिटी होती है। तीसरा, मैं बहुत ही, मेरा टेम्परामेंट जो था वो बहुत ही एक संतुलित था, बैलेंस था। मैं बहुत ज्यादा कोई ना एग्रेसिव होना और ना एक्साइटमेंट होता था, मैं बहुत शांत और एक समता का भाव रखने वाली।
Ma'am, I think you are on mute. We've lost your audio. No, not yet. Yeah.
Now it's okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So I hope मैं कब से म्यूट पे थी मुझे पता ही नहीं है।
नहीं, just now only it went on mute.
Just now. Okay. So this is a thing actually. देखिए, महिलाओं के ऊपर बहुत सारी जिम्मेवारी होती है और सबसे बड़ी जिम्मेवारी जो मैं कहूँगी अंत में वो होती है कि एक पूरे राष्ट्र को या पूरे समाज को, पूरे विश्व को एक अच्छा नागरिक देने की। और मैं इसलिए कहूंगी कि महिला की थोड़ी अधिक, हालांकि पुरुष का बहुत बड़ा योग है, उसमें योगदान है पुरुष के और परिवार का, लेकिन यहाँ पे थोड़ी सी जिम्मेवारी इसलिए थोड़ी बढ़ जाती है क्योंकि वो उसके गर्भ में पल रहा होता है, इसलिए उनको अपने गर्भ में जब बच्चा पल रहा होता है उसको अपने सभी आसपास के एनवायरनमेंट, अभी गर्भ में बच्चा आ जाने के बाद यदि हम संस्कार करें, गर्भ संस्कार करें, तो उसका इतना महत्वपूर्ण नहीं है जितना कि गर्भ में बच्चा आए उससे पहले की तैयारी। माता पिता को दोनों का आचरण और दोनों का व्यक्तित्व इतना अच्छा होना चाहिए जिससे कि हम जैसा सीडिंग करेंगे, यदि हमने क्योंकि हम देखते हैं कई आजकल समाज में बहुत अल्कोहल लेते हैं, स्मोकिंग करते हैं और उसके बाद कोई भी नशा करते हैं, उसके बाद अगर गर्भधारण किया जाए तो वो एक समाज में एक बच्चे ने मुझसे पूछा था DPS आरकेपुरम के बच्चे ने कि डोंट यू थिंक मैम दिस अवर ओवर पॉपुलेशन इज अवर स्ट्रेंथ. आई सेड आई हैव अ डाउट. हमें हमारी जो ओवर पॉपुलेशन है वो क्वालिटी पॉपुलेशन होनी चाहिए. ये बहुत जरूरी है. इसलिए जब अगर हम एक आम का पेड़ लगाते हैं तो उसमें आम ही होता है, और यदि करेला लगाएंगे या बबूल लगाएंगे तो उसमें बबूल ही होगा. इसलिए हमें घर में धारण करने से पहले की तैयारी बहुत जरूरी है. ये केवल महिला, इसलिए मैं बार बार बोल रही हूँ कि इसको महिला दिवस न मना करके बल्कि हम महिला पुरुष दोनों का एक ये होना चाहिए. इस समाज की बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेवारी, ये एक बहुत जरूरी है इनफैक्ट.
True, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Santosh Yadav ji, for your inspiring words. And your persona is full of warmth and optimism. I think which will inspire all our listeners and participants. Thank you for your time. Thank you. With this, we'll move to our next speaker. We are fortunate that Dr. Vasudha has joined us back. So, Dr. Vasudha Kamath, who is Chairperson, Governing Board of Consortium of Educational Communication. Dr. Vasudha is also an educational technologist and is passionate about teachers training, especially in the area of ICT integration in higher education, women's education, and open and distance education. She has been contributing for decades with a lot of passion and commitment towards education. Prior to being chairperson of CEC, Professor Kamath has been Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, Mumbai. While serving as Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, she introduced many new thoughts and innovative practices into higher education in the university. She is nominated by the Government of India as a member of the task force for examining age of motherhood for women in India. She was also nominated by Ministry of Home and Resource Development, now the Ministry of Education, to the National Education Policy Draft Committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Kasturi Ranjan in June 2017. The report stands approved by the cabinet now. May I now invite Dr. Kamath for sharing her thoughts with us today on this special occasion. Dr. Kamath.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Dr. Mande, are you able to hear me? Sujata ji, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're on.
Dr. Mande, Secretary DSIR and DG CSIR, Dr. Sujata Taklanovich, fellow panelists and friends. It was really heartening to listen to Santosh ji. It was great, and let me salute her courage and showing the strength of a woman. And other friends, it is a great pleasure to celebrate International Women's Day with all of you. The theme of this webinar is Breaking the Glass Ceiling, Gender Equality and Women Empowerment. I will use my PowerPoint presentation to speak. Are you able to see that? Vandana ji, are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see.
Oh. Today's theme is Breaking the Glass Ceiling. The International Women's Day is celebrated on 8th March, and this year the theme is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And what is the thought behind it? It is recognizing the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation, mitigation and response to build a more sustainable future for all. At least during this year, if we concentrate on this theme, nothing like it. UNESCO has prioritized gender equality in and through education. And it says the stakes are twofold. The education of girls and women is a fundamental human right, and it is also an essential lever for sustainable development and peace. I come from education, as you just heard, and then most of my ideas and thoughts will be related to education. Just a small example I want to give you. Enrollment in higher education, if you see from 2016-17 to 2019-20, it has slowly increased. 35.7 million, that means 3.5 crore to now 3.8 crore. That is the total enrollment. And if you can see, percentage of women has also increased from 46.8% to 49%. Now, if you see the gender parity is comparison of GER of boys and girls. GER means gross enrollment ratio. You can see that it was quite less than 1, but now since 2018-19 it was 1, and last year 2019-20, this is according to the Asia report, All India Survey of Higher Education. It says that now gender parity index is 1.01, which is really a happy news for all of us. Now, if you see the postgraduate level pass out, you can see it here. The number of girls is more, 8 lakhs, 8.4 lakhs, up to 9 lakhs, and number of boys is less. But if you see PhD level students, and you can see that number of students for PhD who have passed out PhD, boys are more, from 16,000 to 21,000, and girls is only from 12,000 to 17,000. You see, going for PhD for girls is less, and now the requirement for university or college teachers is that you should have a PhD. So what happens now, if you see there are total 12 lakhs teachers in higher education. This is the data given to me by NUPA for 2018-19. You see that out of 12 lakhs, 7 lakhs are men and 4.8 lakhs are female. Now if you go higher up, associate professor, it is lesser. Professors, 57,000 men and 21,000 women. If you go ahead, principal, pro vice chancellor, director, see how it looks. This is how it looks. For men, they were only 57% assistant professors, and if you see vice chancellors, out of 100 vice chancellors, 92 are men and 8 are women. Are women not eligible? They don't have the strength, they don't have the brains, they don't have the experience. They do have, but they are not selected for the leadership position. And this is not only in India, across the world. Is it not a glass ceiling? See how it goes on decreasing for women, from 43% assistant professors to only 8% vice chancellors. Glass ceiling, globally women face barriers from being recruited to receiving promotions for no fault of theirs. Women in leadership roles are still in minority, and globally women hold only 24% of senior roles. Now, I'll give you one example. This is about Companies Act, which came into 2013. And I presently also am working as independent director of one company. And I worked from 2016 to 2019 in government-owned company. I found that the Act says at least one woman director should be there on the board of directors. So what the companies do? Most of the companies, I'm not saying all, but most of the companies appoint one woman director because that is the requirement. And there are 10 to 12 directors, sometimes many more. Why not appoint half? They don't, because the requirement is only one. And now if you can see, Mrs. Swati Piramal has said that, you know how such a great lady she is. What she says, I have always found myself being the only woman on many boards. In fact, I was the first woman in 90 years to be the president of ASSOCHAM, the Apex Chamber of Commerce. This is called glass ceiling. What happens really? Another example, when a university vice chancellor is selected, it is a 3-member committee, And most of the time, all three are men. And they generally select men. Or at least 2 out of 3 are men. When I was interviewed for Vice Chancellor's position, there were 3 members, that was a 3-member committee and 2 were men. But unfortunately, they selected me, and ours is a women's university. It is not written anywhere that Vice Chancellor should be a woman, but it is contention that yes, women in leadership roles for bringing women on board are still in minority. I am a Chancellor's nominee in one of the university, and for selecting a person, for selecting Vice Chancellor, the managing committee, managing council and academic council together, they give one name. And in that university, all 8 names were given of men. I protested. I said, let the Chancellor select whoever he or she wants to select, but we should give at least one name. If we are giving 3 names, at least one of that should be women. I said, I will give you 8 names of women who are of high caliber and who are presently holding high positions. And they all agreed, and we gave one name. Unfortunately, I don't know, but that Vice Chancellor was man again. So what I am saying, this is glass ceiling. Glass ceiling means it is not written anywhere in the mandate, but it happens. It happens. I'll share my personal experience because Dr. Sujata was very kind in telling me that you can share your personal experiences. I was fortunate to get educated in schools which did not distinguish between boys and girls. Of course, we were asked to sit separately, boys in this row and girls in this row. But I did only 8 years schooling because I never went to school for first, second, third standard. I appeared for third standard exam and directly I went to fourth standard. So my schooling up to 11th standard was only 8 years, and I changed 7 schools because my father was a medical officer and he used to get transferred. So my experience about school, that time this gender bias was not there. We were all treated equally. We used to climb the trees, we used to swim, and all our teachers were very supportive. I studied in 4 colleges for my BSc, 4 years, 4 colleges. Don't ask me the reason. And they were also not thinking about gender. But now while writing this one thing strikes me that none of my teachers, college teachers, were women. And none of the principals, even for B.Ed college where I did my B.Ed, that person was also a man. So women, I'm talking about 1967 to 75, but women were not so much seen in higher education and certainly not for science. But now things have changed tremendously and I'm happy about it. I did my B.Ed after teaching 3 years in school, and I did my B.Ed, M.Ed and PhD. For my PhD, then I charted out my whole plan. I said before I complete my 30 years, I should do my PhD. And I got my PhD before I completed 29 years. But for that, deciding on life mission is very important. Why I'm sharing, I'm not boasting. I am saying that to achieve something in life for women, underline. For men, it is different. One of our Vice Chancellors, Professor Suma Chitnis, who is internationally known sociologist, used to say that in order to prove we are silver, women have to be gold. So why I am sharing this with you? I had charted out my program, I had decided on my life mission, the purpose of my life, and I planned accordingly. But this requires a lot of efforts. And to achieve the goals which you have set for yourself, that requires determination and very hard work. People may talk, but we have to be determined. I learned these values from my parents. My father was an army monk during World War II, a very disciplined medical professional and with very high values of life. My mother is also a doctor and she instilled all these values in all of her children. My experience about glass ceiling was asked, but I really did not face any severe glass ceiling. Because maybe because I did not project myself as woman professional, but just a professional. I insisted that others treat me as a professional. I'm a professional educational technologist and others should treat me like that. So all my actions were towards that. not as a woman professional. I was deeply interested in my work. One thing which I must say why tried for leadership role is our university, SNDT Women's University, organized a 3-month management development program with ACU CIDA grant long back. And that helped me a lot to look at me in the leadership role. So I'm suggesting that such inputs are very much needed. Before that, I never thought, I was only head of the Department of Education Technology, but I never thought that I can climb on this ladder. But because of this kind of input training, which I received, I thought, yes, I also can take up a leadership role. I developed expertise required for that leadership role. Another thing is I was proactive and not reactive. I always found that there is a work to be done and I did it. Without somebody ordering me to do that, I was proactively doing that. That helped a lot. And I strongly believe in together we win. In the classrooms also, we don't lecture. We always insist students to work in teams and groups and really go for collaborative and cooperative learning. So this is my life mission, that people should work together and win together. I have only, I think, one experience I want to share, and that was very shocking. I became Vice Chancellor in 2011, and there was a JBVC, Joint Board of Vice Chancellors. This is conducted by Honorable Chancellor, that is Governor, Chief Minister, and Minister of Higher and Technical Education. They are also present. I was the only woman Vice Chancellor. All other university Vice Chancellors in Maharashtra were men, and most of them were engineers. So they also had air that engineers can do anything, they can create anything, and very true. I really respect that. But that doesn't mean people coming from social science and education are any less. So our university had introduced CBCS, choice-based credit system, long back. We had semesterized our all curricula, we had credit-based curricula, thanks to our visionary Vice Chancellors. And when I presented that, the Chief Minister said, we will appoint a committee, let Dr. Kamath be the chairperson of that committee. So, to my surprise, in that meeting, half of the Vice Chancellor said, sir, this will not work, let us do that, we will do it. I was shocked. I was shocked that the Vice Chancellors can say that in front of me, that they said it and they mean it. So, I was not made a chairperson. I was only a member, fortunately, of that 5-member committee. Why I am saying this, even though because no other Vice Chancellor had the experience of semesterization or credit-based system. Only SNDT University had started that. In spite of that, you see the glass ceiling. Anyway, later on, all these Vice Chancellors became very good friend of mine. And even when I retired in 2016, we are all good friends. I think that the barriers we find in glass ceiling, and there is another term used, that is sticky floors. Glass ceiling, at least you can go higher up to some extent. Sticky floors just don't allow you to move. They fix you wherever you are. Assistant professor, all your life you are assistant professor. So I think that there are social and cultural barriers like family responsibility, gender role stereotypes, what women can do, parents' attitude towards education of girls. There are psychological barriers like decision making. Can I take a decision which would impact hundreds and thousands of people working under me? The responsibilities are enormous when you go for a leadership role. The confidence, I think more of emotional quotient is important, and which is not developed so much in women while they grow up. Organizational expectation. The structure is such that there is always cutthroat competition, and women generally don't want to get into it. Bigger challenges. This is a male-dominated world, as I showed you. 92% are men Vice Chancellors and only 8%. I attended a first Vice Chancellors meet, and I was the only Vice Chancellor where I had a flat. I had long hair, and I was not really looking like a Vice Chancellor, all men. But that picture is now changing. We have 1,000 universities now, and 8% also is some good number. Men's stereotyping of women men think that women must be like this. Actually, women are not like this. But men, they are brought up like that, about thinking of women's strength and what women can do. And that is why they reflect using that. And there is also a politics, which I think women want to keep away from. Many women, not all, but some women, many women like to keep away from politics. But what happens when women come into the picture? I will just share with you one example. I used to travel a lot 2 years ago. Nearly every week I used to travel by air to this, because I was a member of this NEP draft committee, and we used to have meetings nearly every fortnight and other meetings. And I used to travel, and all captains were generally they are men. And once the airplane goes into air, they will start telling you we are on 24,000 feet and then the temperature maintains this and that. Once one woman pilot was there, and evening I was coming back from Delhi, and she said, now good evening to everyone. If you look at your right, you have the sun setting, and if you look at your left, you see the moon coming up. Please enjoy that. Can you imagine? She made my day. None of the pilots, main pilots, would even think of saying this. I have never heard that. I have traveled lakhs of kilometers, many countries outside the country. I never heard. Only a woman pilot could say this, because women are poetic at heart. I think so. They take a lot of responsibility. She is a pilot and she had the responsibility of all of us, but still she maintained her womanhood. I think how to achieve this success and go away from, bring away these women from these barriers, class ceiling. I think education would help that. And the policy, national education policy, has suggested multiple pathways to learning. You see, if you now, while introducing it was said that I was a member of this committee task force for age of marriage and age of motherhood. And we have suggested that age should be raised from 18 to 21 years. Now it has gone to standing committee. It may or may not be passed, I don't know. But we have suggested, because then women would at least go for higher education after 18 years of age, and they will get a degree. Once they are there, then they can marry and settle for their families. And for that, they should have multiple pathways of learning. Policy says if they drop out after 1 year, give them diploma. If they drop out after 2 years, give them advanced diploma, then degrees. Master degrees also, a lot of different types are suggested. What SNDT Women's University did long back, with the help of Ford Foundation, we developed 2 foundation courses. One was Women in Changing India. That time globalization and urbanization, a lot of talk was there. And then free trade. So women must know about it, and women must know the impact of these processes on their own life. Not only as a Indian, but as a woman also. So, and it was not taught through lectures or anything, it was a sensitization kind of way of teaching, and girls loved that, and they were also found it advantageous to a great extent. I would like to share with you, when I became Vice Chancellor, most of the universities have a position of Pro Vice Chancellor. But men look at Pro Vice Chancellorship as a contestant. This is like a second position you are creating, and then there is a tussle, not women. Within 15 days, I requested the Chancellor send a name, and he appointed a Pro Vice Chancellor in my university. We have 6 people at the top management: Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Director, Board of College and University Development, Control of Examination, and Finance Officer. Out of these 6, 4 of us were women. You can just imagine how smoothly we ran the university, and how so many new ideas we brought in, so many thoughts, so many practices we set in, and everyone worked in consonance, and we could achieve A grade from NAC. I'm not saying it is only because of women leadership, but it is very important reason for it is leadership of women. I want to share with you about two programs and then stop. One is mentoring program for women. I think women need this kind of handholding, showing her the world around, horizons, the bigger picture, and then ask her to select what she wants to do and making that available. Commonwealth of Learning, Canada, they instituted a program called Commonwealth Wise Women. And they invited some of us to mentor if we can. And I joined wholeheartedly and I became a mentor for this. And my friends used to tease me, are you a wise woman? So I said, yes, that is why Cole has selected me. So 82 women mentees, they were there. And I mentored 2 women from Pune, that is India, and 3 from Tanzania. And we worked together, we used to have a discussion, they used to share with me their thoughts and then barriers and then challenges. And then we used to find out what can be done and how it can be done. It was a wonderful experience. And I request Dr. Sujata to think about it because she is very keenly interested in empowering women. So this kind of mentoring program, if it can be initiated. I was doing that. I'm also a member of governing body of CSC Academy. This is Common Service Centers Academy. It is of Ministry of Electronics and IT. It's the Government of India. And I contacted because I'm on their governing board. I asked them because they conduct a lot of training in IT. So I asked these 2 women from Pune. They were having their own business. One was having a business of milk and other was having a business of tailoring, some kind of, she used to make things. So I said they need IT training and CSC Academy CTO was very much interested. Then he said that we are also training women in that. So I think such endeavors go a long way in helping women break their glass ceiling in their own fields. It is not a break. Glass ceiling term is used basically for corporate, but every woman, she really faces these challenges, and men around her, if they are good, they allow her, they motivate her, they inspire her to come forward, join their hands, but not always. So institutions like DST also can think about our universities. They can think about creating this atmosphere so that women help each other and come together and walk along and take a path and show to the world we have the strength, like Santoshji has just now showed us. Thank you so much for your patient listening and giving me this opportunity for sharing. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't take much time beyond.
Thank you, Dr. Kamath, for sharing your personal experience and also for sharing the barriers that women still face in their professional worlds and even in the corporate world. Thank you for sharing the women disparity that I believe still exists in Indian society and maybe globally. So with this, I'll invite our next speaker, Dr. Anuradha Acharya, who is a young entrepreneur, columnist, poet, and a charismatic speaker. As the founder and CEO of Map My Genome, she introduced the concept of personal genomics in India with launch of Genome Patri in 2013. She co-founded and pioneered her first venture, Ossimum Biosolutions, from 2000 to 2013 through innovative bioinformatics and LIMS solution, global acquisitions, awards, and fundraisers. She has many awards and recognition like Women Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2022 by Indian Express, Zee Business, and other business houses. She also received Pride of Telangana Award in 2018. She was nominated as Young Global Leader of World Economic Forum class of 2011. She serves on the governing and advisory boards of many organizations and bodies such as IIT Hyderabad and WeHub, just to state the few. And she is also on the board of the Ivy Cap Ventures. She is also a member of CI National Committee on Biotechnology and many other national and international committees of repute. May I now welcome Dr. Anuradha Acharya to please share her views today.
Thank you so much. It is an honor. Thank you, Dr. Sujata, Dr. Shekhar, Dr. Vasudha, Mrs. Santosh, and more Dr. Vandana, Dr. Ranjit, and more importantly, Dr. Gagandeep, where I'm glad that I'm on the same panel as her in a couple of panels, which means I'm doing something right. I just thought maybe I can remove the presentation, or here I'll just. So I thought today that a lot of the statistics and a lot of detailed analysis has already been shared, but I thought maybe I'll take a few points, mostly from my own journey, to find out that why is it that people like me have been able to do certain things, and there are many other women that are finding it harder to do certain, to be able to get to where we would like all of them to get to. And I think about that as I grew up in a small campus town. My dad was a professor, and after he passed away, I had the opportunity to read through some of his diary, which he used to write every day. And it was quite an interesting revelation to me, because throughout all the years that I was growing up, I did not see any bias. I did not see anything that would ever make me feel that there was anything that was, coming in the way that, any way that I wanted to grow up and do what I wanted to do. But what was interesting was when we are three sisters and a brother, and when my elder sister was born, I think it was fine. When I was born, it was fine. And then we had the third daughter. And I think one of the things that was written in his diary was how much of a challenge that my mother and father faced because of having three girls. And I think that was an interesting thing, because we never knew about it when growing up. The other thing that was interesting that was when we were growing up was also that my brother was actually my cousin, which I did not know till I was 15 years old. So I think it was a very, some of the things that we find that when you grow up, it's all the other people who have suffered to be able to make you feel like, that they have cleared the paths for you. And I think my dad was definitely one of them, and my mom too. And I think that happens in a lot of families, and it is always both your parents that have actually done the right things in terms of what you can do to be able to create that environment for you. The second thing, of course, was that, as I grew up, and I grew up in an IIT campus, so clearly everybody around me was really, all we were looking for was to be able to make sure that we could actually, study and get to IIT. And I think as a result of that, all we discussed was to be how do you actually crack the exam, and also I think what was interesting was the library and the large number of books that we created at home, which I think that was the kind of the right way to be able to think about the world. We didn't have television at home, but all we could get any book that we wanted. And that was the one thing that my dad never ever put any restrictions on in terms of what you can do for being able to get to the, to whatever you wanted to read. So clearly at that point of time, there was not that kind of money available for professors. But I think what he signaled to all of us was that books come in a different budget, and therefore you are allowed to read anything that you want. So we had the largest collection of fiction, largest collection of science books, the largest collection of anything that we wanted. So that was, I think, another thing that I think that was done right, that allowed us to be able to get to where we are. The third thing that I think when I got into IIT, and we were thinking about which area I should go into, I was clearly inspired by what my father was doing, and so I said I wanted to do physics. But the discussion and the discussion at home was very different. It was about why can't she do mining if she wants to, right? And my brother, my father, my sisters, and we all used to have constant debates about why is it that certain fields do not allow women more than anything else. Ultimately, I did end up doing what I wanted to do, because that is what is allowed, was what my father wanted me to do. But he always presented the different choices that were there. And I think that was what is important. And I think as we went along, I went through IIT, went through going to the US, and I told him one fine day that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. He did not say anything to say, don't do it. And I think that was one of the things that we have always seen, that I always had the choice to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I think that's a huge thing. What you get at home, what you get in with your peers is probably the most important thing that you can get to be able to get on with life. What I told him at that point, I remember this was in 97, 98. I said, I was inspired by you. I wanted to become a physicist, but I realized that as I've gone forward and I've understood myself better, that I think there are certain attributes that I feel I can do way better than what I don't not want to be a mediocre physicist. And he said, it's perfectly fine. Just make sure you are weighing your, you're weighing your choices and you go along with that. And then came the choice when I had to tell them that I was going to get married to somebody who was not, did not belong to the same community that we were. It was not an arranged marriage. I was going to get married to someone from South India. And what was interesting at that point of time was that he also said something which was, as a scientist, he first drew a graph. And in that graph, he said, this is love versus time. And he sort of explained to me all the different pieces of what can happen. And it was a very nice way of actually projecting that information to me and told me that the decision is mine, but he also explained that make sure that what you do is not irreversible. So I think that whole scientific temper in our house, the whole experimental attributes that he presented to us, he was constantly experimenting, I think allowed us to be able to get to where we are. So I think that was the first part of my life. And I think that's true for, I think, a lot of us. And I think I have 2 daughters. And I hope that, it has been easy for them to be able, even more easier, to be able to get on to their careers in whatever field they choose. My daughter now is working. And what we have found is that my conversations with them are of a different level. And I think one of the things that they have taught me is quite interesting, because I think what we are seeing in the newer generation is the use of, for instance, I've seen a lot of them using different pronouns, he, she, they, them. And I think basically they've decided who they want to be in terms of the gender, in terms of the biases, in terms of all of that. And I think that is, for me, is fascinating, because I think that was not a conversation we had when we were growing up. And I think that, if we were to move towards a more genderless world where we are not biased by our genders and by, religion and equality, all of that, I think it's important that we are able to find that you can decide who you want to be, because clearly I think we cannot be stereotyping women being, caring, organized and this thing, and men being aggressive and others, because clearly I think all of us have attributes. There are some women who are less organized like I am, and there are some men who are much more caring and sensitive. So I think one is to be able to make sure that we can allow people to be able to do what they want to do. And so I think in my journey in being able to create 2 companies, whether it was Ossimum or Map My Genome, what I found is that it has been it's not been a very easy journey. And I think part of that is a choice that I myself took on, because it was not something that, people choose a certain path because they want to tread that path. Like we had Mrs. Santosh Yadav, she chose a path that was purposefully difficult, right, and in climbing a mountain. But I think in doing that, what was interesting was when she was talking about the journey, and she said that I used to walk 11 kilometers every day. And while that was a difficult thing to do, I think that sort of prepared her in many ways to overcome to the next level. So I think in the same way, I think when I chose to get into a field of genomics, I think it was because I thought that was going to be exciting. It was going to be something that's going to be intellectually stimulating, and that I wouldn't lose interest in that area. And I think at that point of time, while I did not have a background in genomics, I think the curiosity element in terms of what this field can do in terms of impacting all of us, I think that itself was, for me, was a key hook to be able to get on to the next level of starting this company. So I started the company. We went an unusual route. We did a lot of acquisitions. We became one of the largest genomic services players worldwide. And I think the reason that I had to start the second company was that I felt that I wasn't being able to contribute towards the precision medicine for India as what we can look as being a leader in the precision medicine space, because all we were doing at that point was a lot of great work, a lot of work which was going to be helping a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, but a lot of the data that was coming was also data that was coming in from the Western world. So I think that sort of forced me to think that if I've been in this space for 12, 13 years, we understand the whole technology aspects of it. Can we do something that we can allow us to be able to contribute in a more meaningful way to what we can do as an Indian company? So I think that's how I started my company called Map My Genome, and we started it in looking at two different aspects. One was the whole preventive aspect, and the other was that can we actually help in generating more data for the Indian genome, and as a result make the whole precision medicine part much more exciting and as we go along. So I think that was how we started, and we realized that doing something that was a B2B business where we are working with pharmaceutical companies was very different from working with directly to consumers or directly with patients, because that's now you are talking to people who are not familiar like all of you are, all of you wonderful scientists over here, all of you understand the value of what research can do and all of that. But now we had to face a problem, which was to say, how do we educate the common person about the value of genomics and understanding what value that genetics can bring to you? So I think for doing that, what we had to do was to say, is there something that people can connect with? And one of the first things that I could think about at that point of time was that people are familiar with the Janam Patri as something that people can understand in terms of what your health, and who you should marry and all of that. So I said, if people understand what a Janam Patri is, maybe we call it a Genome Patri, and so people can understand what this does from a contextual point of view, from a consumer point of view. And that's how we got started. I think over a period of time, I think we've been able to make people understand what all of that can do. And I think making science simple and making science communicable, that we can actually communicate to people, I think is almost as important as the technology itself. And I think we realized it the hard way when we started Map My Genome, because we realized that it is not enough for us to be able to do science for science sake. But if we are able to communicate that in very simple terms, to be able to get that message across, I think that was even more important and valuable for us. So I think that was one of the things that I wanted to bring forward over here. And maybe one more thing that I think that is exciting is that when I was recently put on a list that the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor came out with a lot of women in STEAM, what I realized was that there are few scientists that I always look up to. All of you sitting here, Dr. Renu Swaroop, Dr. Gagandeep, and all of that. But there were so many that I realized that I did not know myself, being somebody who is heavily networked, and I still did not know about all these wonderful women who are out there. So I think that maybe we need to do a little bit more in terms of understanding the lives of many other women that are out there that we can all celebrate. So I thought that was a great effort to be able to, at least for me, to be able to connect with a lot of them and be able to understand what they're doing. Other than that, I think from being a woman, entrepreneur who's woman, I hate the term woman entrepreneur, because I often say that none of the men have this as a prefix. No one says a male entrepreneur, but it's only when we look at women, we say women entrepreneur. And I think that's a sign of a problem that we have, and a sign of a bias that we already have in our society. So I'm hoping that there would be a time where we do not have to celebrate Women's Day, and that there is a time when no one calls us as a woman scientist or a woman entrepreneur or a woman something, because I think that itself is a barrier that we need to break. And if we are aware and we are cognizant of it, then there's a possibility of being able to get to that. One more thing, I think I heard one of the speakers say was that we need to have a change at all levels. And I realized that for us, a lot of those changes happened because systematically, when we created the board for Map My Genome, we had 50% women. So we have four people on the board. and we realized that there was Dr. Anula, there was me, and then I got two Arjun Malhotra and Arji. And as a result, I think that was good at the top. But what we also found was that in the beginning, we had a lot of women, primarily because I think as a founder, I think we also attract a lot of people of the same kind. And so in the beginning, Map My Genome had 80% women. Over a period of time, we realized that we need to make sure that our workforce is as diverse, so that we need to make sure that we have to understand and analyze the statistics. And as a result, I think one of the key messages I gave the HR team and also the department heads was that we have to make sure that you're not doing this as a bias, as a result of your bias. Because you're a woman, you're adding more women, which is not a bad thing, but I think we have to make sure that at least people recognize that. And as a result, I think what we realized was that when we made people aware of the fact that this is the statistics, what we did find was that today, if you look at our, the type of people that we have, it is very balanced, both from a gender perspective, both from a religion and many other perspectives. They are all balanced, and it's primarily because we said, I think if we recognize we have a bias, I think we need to make sure that when you are doing that recruitment, when you're doing something, that you are not putting that class on when you are actually creating that opportunity for someone else. So I think as a result, I think today we are a diverse and equitable and very inclusive environment. And I think everybody can get to that level as long as I think we are able to understand it from top to bottom. And I think it's easier in a scientific organization than in others, because I think there are so many more women that are graduating. I think India has a large number of women who have graduated in the sciences. But the sad thing, I think and I think Dr. Gagandeep also mentioned, was that there's been a contraction of the number of women in the workforce due to the pandemic, about a 10% contraction that has come about in the workforce for women. And I think we need to find ways and means to be able to change that as we go along. So with that, I think I'd like to wish all you wonderful scientists a very happy day and hope that we'll be able to change this as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thanks a lot for a wonderful talk. Sharing your family contribution and your upbringing which helped you in reaching your goals and inspiring you to be an entrepreneur, and also your positivity that the things are changing towards a betterment, and women is gaining an important period of time. Thank you, Dr. Anuradha. Thanks a lot. It was really wonderful hearing you. So with this, we come to the end of the event, and with this, we come to the end of the event, and I may request my colleague, Dr. Ranjit Berwa, to share vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to all. I consider it a great privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I thank all the dignitaries who have made it convenient to attend this webinar. The very presence of so many senior officials from various institutions is a reflection of the importance that is attached to the initiation related to empowering the women. I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to respected Secretary DSIR Dr. Shekhar C. Mande for gracing this occasion as the keynote speaker. Sir, your presence today in this event has immensely enhanced its importance. We are extremely grateful to you, sir, for your insightful address. Thank you, sir. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Sujata Chiklonovis, Scientist G Head DUPW DSIR, for initiating this idea of celebrating International Women's Day and guiding us for making this event successful. Ma'am, we all know that you have led from front and made the event a great success. Thank you, ma'am. I thank Professor Vasudha Kamath for accepting our invitation. Must mention our deep sense of appreciation for her significant contribution to the field of educational technology, information and communication technology for women's education. Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful to Madam Srimati Santosh Yadavji, madam, for sharing the journey and achievements which are inspirational for the women and the society. Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful to Dr. Gagandeep Kang, madam, who is a source of inspiration and motivation for society with her vast knowledge and acumen in the subject. Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful to Dr. Anuradha Acharya, CEO of Map My Genome, a young woman entrepreneur who is a source of inspiration for women and the society. I thank Dr. Vandana Kalia, Member Secretary at TDUP Program DSIR, for all her efforts for coordination with several teams to make the event successful, and her efforts for preparation of report is greatly appreciated. I extend my sincere thanks to all the officers and staff of DSIR, all officials from various organizations and institutions who took out time from their busy schedule and became a part of this webinar. The event of the Celebrating International Women's Day could not have been conducted successfully without technical support of NIC. I extend my big thanks to IT division of CSIR for their support and arranging the VC Link platform for this event. Last but not least, I thank admin DSIR for providing the support for this event. To conclude, let me once again reiterate my gratitude to all. Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And